I'm Jerrel, this is Mountain Home. Welcome to my series where I show you and share some tips on how to play the Autoharp. Today we'll be focusing on how to understand the sounds that you can make and what sounds you can make out of the Autoharp. So, what is most important when you are considering what you can actually play on the Autoharp and how to actually strum and pick and make sounds? First, you'll want to check out the other two videos in this series that is related to picks, on the picks that you should use, and how to hold the Autoharp. Today we'll be focusing on the philosophies of what sounds are available to you on the Autoharp. So, to try to simplify this, you want to consider that you basically have three registers that you'll be playing on. This is a very important concept to keep in mind. You have your low register here, you have your middle register, and you have your high register. If you play guitar or other instruments, you can sort of visually sort of build an image of having three necks, so to speak. You have your low neck, your middle neck, and your high neck. So, what is a very good exercise when you are first starting out is the "How are you doing today?" exercise. Go ahead and hold your favorite chord. I'll just hold C for now, and I'll do an exercise where I start at the low end and I will do a picking pattern or a very simple pick or a pinch using my middle finger and my thumb. And what I'm doing is I'm starting at the low register, working my way up the Autoharp and then back down. How are you doing today? How are you doing today? This is a good starter exercise. It's a good warm-up. It gives you an idea of where you need to place your fingers in order to get a sound out of the Autoharp. When you push down a chord bar, you are actually muting strings. Any strings that you don't need will be muted from what you are playing. So that means that you need to have an understanding of which strings will be open so you can be familiar with where you are supposed to put your fingers when you are picking or strumming. So it's good when you're first starting out to practice this, especially with the different chords. How are you doing today? 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 A little bit of a memory cue there. That helps you figure out. So, once you are familiar with where to put your fingers, where you can pick, it's important to consider your philosophy on what you can play. You play differently whether you are accompanying just yourself or if you are supporting another musician. You play very differently for either of those, so I will create videos specifically on how to play with other musicians and specifically how to play with other instruments. So I'll discuss today how to play accompaniment for yourself. So I'll play a little bit here. Now let's do the right rhythm here. When you are accompanying yourself, it's important to maintain your bass line, that you have supporting sound underneath your music. When you are singing, you need to have a sound behind you. So it's important to start out your phrases on your ones with a strum of the bass here. Depending on the environment, if you are mic'd, you don't need to play so hard, but if you are playing purely acoustically, you'll find that you need to dig a fair bit into those bass notes. So you want those bass notes ringing out on your low register. So again, you have your low register, And for the rest of your chord, you're basically playing in your middle register. That's more of a beginner concept. In more advanced stages, you really consider that you have 4-register. You have your middle registers actually comprises of 2 sections, your low and your high in your middle section, but we won't discuss that for now. Just on a beginner level, when you're first entry level starting these, only think of it as 3 registers, your low, middle, and high, but on the advanced level, you actually have 2 registers in the middle there, your middle register split in half. So, I'll discuss picking patterns in a different video. Today's just understanding the sounds that you can make with the Autoharp, how to make sounds come out of it. So it's important to have that supportive bass. If you don't play that bass, I'll show you what it looks like if you forget to play it. I'll play it first. That's what happens if you only stay in the middle section. You see that your sound now has much less body to it and no depth, no supportive strength to it. So it's important on your phrases, basically on your ones, but you don't want to overdo it. You also want to consider on your high register, you generally only go to your high register when you need some power. If you're building up to something, if you're building up to a crescendo, then you work your way up. And then when you need to hit that crescendo in your music, that's when you can start hitting the very highest notes on your high register there. You don't want to constantly be hitting your high register because it makes your sound quite noisy and it flatlines your dynamic of your music. You want to always build up, you hit that crescendo, and you work your way back down, and then you work your way back up again in music. So you need to be careful that you're not constantly bashing across the whole instrument here. The Autoharp is a very powerful instrument with a significant amount of dynamic, much more dynamic than other instruments where you can strum and pick like that. So it's important to consider that you don't overuse the power because then it becomes noisy and loud and unpleasant. So when you are just strumming along and you have your bass standard rhythm, you want to hit your bass and you want to work in your middle register. When you need to build up to more power, then you start moving up along your strings here. You can see that as you need to build up the dynamic, you can change up the finger picking patterns or your rhythms for picking, and that helps build up the energy towards the next phrase that you're working towards, and you're not just doing the exact same finger picking patterns again and again. I'll go over that in more detail in a future video focusing on picking patterns. I hope this has been useful and interesting to you. And if you are interested, I hope that you'll check out the other videos in this series where I share my advice and instruction on how to play the Autoharp. Thanks for watching. Please come home again soon and take care of yourselves.